In this video, we're gonna tub the 71 Monte Carlo. We're putting some meats under this thing. Welcome back to the channel. We have the car just hovering over top on the hoist of the chassis. And anyways, we are throwing on a set of, what are these tires again? So they're 345 3019s. This is the tire size. We're gonna have to figure out rim diameter and all that, but that's later on. So we ended up with a little bit of a hiccup with the chassis, which is getting taken care of, and it looks like it's gonna work out really well. But what we're gonna need to do is we need to widen the inner fender wells in this so that we got some serious clearance. Now, we ended up getting a kit. So the owner grabbed this kit. It's ABC Performance wheel tubs. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to just kind of go over this really quick, because really that's what this video is going to be about, is installing these ABC tubs. We're going to be doing a little bit different, but I'd like to give you a little bit of a guide and show you what's going on. All right. First of all, ABC, they give you this really nice template, which would be beautiful. And these tubs would widen the inner fender wells about 1.5 inches. So, which is perfect for probably most applications. What we have is we have a chassis that's going to allow us to go in a little bit further than that for sure. I wasn't going to go all the way over to the chassis, but I think I'm gonna. Now, this isn't the correct chassis, and we'll cover that in a different video. What we're going to do is I need to open this up so that at least I can get the wheels in. Now, that way we can measure rims, all that kind of stuff. And it's not just so we can get the wheels in, it's just so when the new chassis comes, we can actually get this lowered onto it, get it bolted up, and figure out where the tubs are going to land. So in the instructions from ABC Performance, they give you basically a bunch of photos. I put it in a slideshow, look through it. Now, there's one catch that you're going to want to do, especially if you haven't done something like this before. The instructions, you got to remember and you got to pay attention. Those instructions that they have are actually in a vehicle that is on a rotisserie. To have this in slideshow and this orientation of the instructions, all I did is pick the pictures, go slideshow. Well, the car all looks upright and everything is totally normal. But if someone hasn't worked on a car that's on a rotisserie, it's going to get very confusing. So it shows you a whole bunch of stuff, how to do stuff. This is the bottom of the car. And this is actually on the rotisserie sideways. That's from inside the trunk. So unless you understand the car and look through this whole thing, you're going to have some issues trying to figure this out. So what I'm talking about here is, if you look at that, the car is rotated onto its side. So orientation wise, that's looking down and the car is completely on its side. This is the bottom of the car on its side. So just a quick note, if you're looking at the instructions, make sure you know your orientation. We're back at the car here, and basically what needs to happen is I'm going to be bracing this trunk support. Okay, so there's a torsion bar in here and everything. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some iron square tubing. I'm going to put a brace in up to here, and then I'm also going to brace up to the back of the seat. Now, we're going to move the tub in, so a bunch of this stuff is going to end up getting cut. And these pieces need to come off. We're going to reuse these. We just have to reshape them, or it might be faster for me to just make new ones. But normally what a person would do if you don't have the tools is reuse those. Now, the other thing in the instructions when you're looking at this is, if you're looking at the instructions, you're going to see a wheel tub that I think was their prototype, because it has like a strip in it. Just so if you're looking at the instructions, ignore that. They've got it painted over and you can see the welds and all that stuff. I think it's just their prototype wheel tubs that they're using to put them in, because the wheel tubs that come, I mean, they're gorgeous. So these are the wheel tubs. They're still together, and yeah, that's pretty. So just cruising on over here. If we look inside the car, you can see these patch panel or these brace panels here and so on. I'm going to be cutting all that out just like the instruction said, except I'm going to be doing it a little bit different, and neither here nor there, because we're going to move them in. We're going to have to change some stuff. And so this car is getting tubbed more than the instructions say. So I am going to just set the phone down and I'm going to come in here with a spot weld cutter. And I'm going to just start getting rid of a bunch of spot welds in here. And then I will show you, actually, I'll show you what a spot weld cutter is, and then we'll go from there. All right, this is a spot weld cutter, and this is not a video about drilling spot welds or anything like that, but if I'm going to talk about it, you probably want to know what it is. So what you do is you locate the middle of the spot weld in the car and you center punch mark it. And the reason why is this thing here, you can center it, and then this is spring loaded. So when you push down, it just pushes that piece in and you can get in there and cut. Now, the spot weld cutters, these little arbors, you can change sizes. So what you want to do is you want to figure out what size of spot weld you're going to cut, and you get different arbors for this that'll hog the hole out. And when you're using a spot weld cutter, the slower the better. It just cuts. You want lots of pressure and slow movement, so you want a good drill. And the other thing is, if it quits cutting, just get a new arbor. It's not worth wasting your time. You will waste a lot of time. And you are not drilling through both layers. All you're doing is drilling one layer of the material off. Then you're going to clean up the knob, you're going to put holes in, and you're going to repop it. Well, I'll go over that all in the video, but it's going to look like it was factory. Here's the tools that I need to do this job, and it's pretty simple. Now, I'm going to give you the reasons why. So this, first of all, you could use any kind of scraper. These are cheap, and I go through tons of them, and I don't care. Hand wire brush. Why do I use a hand wire brush? Well, if you use a power wire brush on this stuff, the holes get kind of brushed over. The wire brush takes the marks right off, and you are left with kind of a sloppy spot to identify where you got to drill. And then just a hammer and a good sharp center punch. And what I did on this is I changed the annular out on here, and I don't know, I might have been calling that arbor. This is the arbor, this is the annular. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I changed the size of it because the spot welds, as you can see on here, are pretty small. And if you hand wire brush this, it really highlights it. And so I have taken and threw in a center punch mark there, right in the middle of that one. And I'm just going to drill it out for you. So this is in a bit of a curve, so you got to take your time to get it going. And it is wanting to walk in there. So if you hold this off to an edge, the edge grabs and it's going to walk off. Now on this one here, we have the materials curved, so I just deepened that and hopefully it'll stay in place. And we'll just take it slow and creep up on it until it's started. Once she's started, and remember, don't get too crazy. These things cut pretty good, pretty fast. This is where we're going to put the weld when we put it together. We'll take it up and make it look like it was an original spot weld. Now, if I kept going, that would go straight through both panels, and on this one it wouldn't matter too much. So the bottom is completely loose. Just this little tiny corner is holding right here. Everything else is very loose. Now, the other thing is when you use a small annular, you got less to grind off. We're not saving this. This is getting to be a new piece, so who cares? But if you're doing this, that's one thing you want to do too. You want to be just bigger than the spot weld so it cuts out nice, and that saves you way more time in the end instead of doing big holes. As well as this is going to all get covered, but you can see that released. So simple as that, but I have hundreds of these to remove now. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get comfortable. I'm going to drill a lot of spot welds. I will just keep you in the loop as we go. I have these pieces now out, and if you look up here, you can see there's a brace there that goes to the back, very top corner up there, and it's welded on the inside here, and then there's this other brace going here that's all welded together, and that's supporting the trunk hinges. I did it different than the instructions a little bit. I have these out, and instead of going up at the top, the instructions show you to cut right up in the top. I actually cut it straight level with where that was. So my cut starts there, finishes there. I did it on both sides. I think it's going to probably transition over really nice. Here's the interesting point. We don't know how wide these tubs are going to be in this car because we're doing a little bit different. We're doing different chassis, everything. So instead of drilling all these spot welds like they do, if we have to drill them, we'll do it after. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a body saw. So body saws are beautiful. I'm going to take this body saw and I'm going to make a line on this tub. And I'm actually going to cut the tub where they say take this off and put that new tub in. Well, if I have to take and make a strip in the middle, it's going to be easier for me to cut this as wide as I can, put it over top, and not have to build a piece, a Band-Aid in between there. I can actually use part of this old tub because, you know, it's in really decent shape. So I'm still going to cut the floor where they say to cut it, which is 1.5 inches over. I'll have the template in here. I'll kind of tack that all down to the floor and show you what we're talking about there. I'll just cut that off in the same spot, but the difference I'm doing, where if you're doing this tub and you're going to do the 1.5 inch space, I just drill the spot welds, plunk it in. I also think I'm going to save a whole bunch of time because I'm not going to save the flange that they are telling you to save down, because I can just build a new flange and it's going to be a lot easier for me just because I have the tools. What they have with the instructions, zero issue with it. I think it'd be a good way to go. I just have to say they gave this template. Well, and I'll tell you, honestly, I'm just going to abandon the instructions because, I mean, the photos are helpful if you want to get a rough idea. But this template, for example, doesn't even fit the contour of the wheel tub. It's got this weird, you know, it's got this piece out. So I don't know if this was for a different vehicle and they just put it in wrong, whatever. My hope is these instructions will help. And of course, I'm abandoning how they did it because I can definitely, with the tools I have, save some time. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this so that I can get my wheels in and roughed out. But I'm going to use this little angle and then I'll draw it on the floor. What I'm going to use is this scribe. It's got a carbide tip and I got it set at 1.5 inches, and I will be able to just hold this along, pull this paper out of here and scribe a line along the floor. That's 1.5 inches. And I can also use the scribe. If you look up here, I can use the scribe to scribe, you know, the piece up there that we got to cut off. So if you're doing 1.5 inches, scribes are beautiful. It's a divider with a scribe on it. And what I'm saying about the paper template, even the new ones have this. So that's going to have to be a fit thing, but it's just, I don't know. Instructions there don't make sense to me. So I can use this on the front and here. And if you flip this over, you only have to cut one side out. They're identical, just flipped mirror image. So enough jibber jabber, I got to get at her. All right, as you can see, I have the car lifted off the chassis now. And a note that I really wanted to point out is in their instructions, they tell you to drill all the spot welds in this. Well, when you're doing a vehicle like this, there's a few precautions that you want. If you're going to use a grinder, you want to protect the windows. I have paper to do all that. I'm avoiding a grinder at all costs. I don't want to wreck these windows. Next thing that we need to know is when you're doing this, you want to check the way the door gaps were. You want to really nose drag that. And these door gaps on this car have not changed at all from what they were, neither did the trunk. If I was to cut this out, this already has some flop to it. So if I cut this member out, I would have a really floppy floor. And when I cut this all out, nothing really twisted abnormally, anything like that. But I'm at the point now where once we get the chassis figured out how it's going to go, I'm going to lower this thing down. I'm going to fit the wheels and see how much more we have to trim out, because really the wheel and tire that's going on this, you know, it's pretty big. I want to make sure that when I'm doing this, there's the old chassis. Here's the new one that we got to do some figuring on. I just need to make sure that when we're doing this, that the wheels fit in here properly. And I am not necessarily going to be 1.5 inches wider, most likely wider. I have abandoned this. I was going to have to drill out hundreds of spot welds, and this way I might have saved a whole bunch. So this flange here, I can remake this flange. I have all the tooling to just make a new flange. And that way I don't have to sit here and drill spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld, spot weld everywhere along there. And if we need the extra widths, which it's hard to see on here, these are a lot wider. But if we need the extra width, I'm not going to have to drill the spot welds on the other one either, because I'm going to be doing the butt weld on that to achieve the width that we need. So, you know, you can follow the instructions. I just definitely would only do one side at a time if you're going to do that. Just my opinion. And I'm not a body guy. I've just done a lot of this kind of stuff, a lot of structural stuff. Yeah, I'm not comfortable with doing both sides unless you had something seriously jigged up to hold it. And I am just going to say for now, like they even had us cutting out or drilling out the seatbelt mount, which I don't know. I don't think we need to do that, but we'll see. We'll see. Might have to. This is a structural member. I'm going to have to finish this. I'll probably flange it to the inside, make it look nice. The whole thing to this is we don't want it looking like it was ever worked on. Back to chassis work for now, and then we'll get back on this and we'll finish it up. Hey, what you guys won't see or won't realize is it's been a minute. Well, it's been quite some time since we actually cut these fender wells out. What happened is we had some really, I guess, issues with the chassis. And as you see in here, this is a bare metal chassis. So flipping from the last videos to this, we have now a new chassis under here, and all the issues are sorted out and they are going really well now. So I am going to get back at ripping the rest of these tubs out. There's one other thing here. When you put independent rear suspension in a vehicle, yeah, it's probably not going to fit the floor of the car. So the cradle here, you can see I had to cut the floor out. So we'll have to make a patch panel for this too. I don't know if I'm going to video that or not. A couple other notes is now that we know how wide the chassis is and what we can cut out, we're cutting out way more than we thought because we want extra clearance in here. And so that also makes it so that we're going to have to move the seatbelt mounts and so on as well. So I'm going to get busy at ripping this apart, and yeah, we'll just set up a camera and go. I'm just gonna drop this down, get rid of that seatbelt mount, and then we'll start cutting. Oops. This is the original tub, and this is the widened tub. Now, comparing what we had before, we have this tub is about 2 inches wider, roughly. So cutting this one out, there's a flange that's on the back of it we left on. Plus that we are cutting out almost 5 inches here. And I left, normally you drill the spot welds like we talked about, and I left this flange on. This is probably going to get cut back a bit, and we're going to put a Band-Aid in here. So I have to cut that flange off of there, and then we're going to have to work this back end because the contours are crazy comparatively. And so I'm going to cut that out and start fitting it and see. It's going to get dangerous in here how close we are to this body mount. Well, maybe not. We'll see. So the side that isn't cut up, if you look at it, the gap in here is huge compared to at the front. And Monte Carlo's, it is definitely different. So we have a lot of play at the back here. And what I got on the other side is now this huge opening, this tub. I'm just going to throw it in here quick. And the cool thing is I'm going to have to do some cutting and stuff. But the cool thing about this without the flange on here now, the way I have it rigged up, I'm gonna have to do a bit of trimming and so on. But I cut this up in here and it's a bit flanged. So once I clean this off, if you look here, I'm only going to have to do a Band-Aid in the front of this. And so that is going to reduce a ton of work. So I can cut this back part off here and roll that up, screw it together, get it in a spot, make a little Band-Aid, and then this wheel opening will be way wider, like 5 inches wider than stock. So I am going to strip this all out of here. So I'll have to lift the body off again and just go crazy stripping this. So I will bring you back once I have this all cleaned up and ready to do the new steps. Okay, she's mocked into place and I got it screwed in. It is just roughed in now. I had to take the big flange off the back of this fender as well. I had to add some material in here and I'll show you why. The factory wheel opening came down in here, and if you use the tub kit, it's just going to bring you over into this area. But what we've done is went way into this area. So over here you can see the height of the floor there with that kick down is now not there. And what I've done is I have just made a flange here, and the purpose of this flange is so that we can keep the pinch weld. This is definitely way too wide. I'm gonna have to slice this all down and stuff, but we can still keep the factory looking pinch welds in this car. So this flange is made to fit good. And what's gonna happen is once it's in there, we'll slice this, tack it together, get this all tacked together and stabilized, get the trunk lid stabilized, make sure that none of the gaps have changed, and then start cutting apart on this side. So yeah, this used to flange way out like this shape, because originally this wheel opening was to go up to here and 2 inches wider, and I cut that off and you can see how much wider we are. On the inside here, this flange is made up. It's not push tight, but it will be, and it will look factory once that's right into the floor. And we'll have to do a little bit of patchwork here, which is no big deal. This will deal with when it's on the rotisserie. We can stabilize everything. And then on the original piece that tied the seat back piece to the fender is this here. And on the other side, I cut out a whack out of here, and I actually cut too much out, but I can take that factory piece. I sandblasted it up, and it took very minor work to get this thing to fit reasonably well. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this factory piece that used to be spot welded onto here, and I'm actually going to trace it from the other side, but weld it on. No one's going to know the difference. She's going to be pretty. I'll get that done, and that'll help stabilize this as well. All right, I got that locked into place, and I just put some tacks in the spot welds. Now, when it comes to finishing that, I'm going to be doing it with a TIG again, like we say on the rotisserie. And this is now stitched in. If you see, I cut through both layers of sheet metal. So the flange that I made, as well as the original floor. And I have started getting this together, and I'm on the back side working around, and I'll kind of give you a little look at that. But first of all, in here, it's getting locked in. I got holes punched in it, and I'll be just taking those in when the car is again on the rotisserie, and we'll look inside the trunk. All right, so I've cut through between both layers, and what I'm doing is I want to keep my weld small so it's way easier to clean up. A MIG weld is a big junky weld that you have to grind off. A TIG weld, I can keep it almost flat, as well as if I keep the gap up here, so I'll tack to about here, and it'll pull it tight up here, but I'll still have enough room to get my saw in. If I tacked all the way here, I wouldn't be able to get my saw in to continue cutting. This is turning out great. All right, now I have to get the supports in for the trunk. So this is the original one out of the side on the passenger side. And I took the driver's side one, prepped it all up, and it is, you know, a good piece to use. I had to reshape these ears and this a little bit, as well as I had to tip this in to make it line up. But instead of making a new piece, using this is going to work out great. So I have it where it will fit on there almost absolutely perfect. Well, as perfect as can be. And the whole thing with this is I'm going to be putting that zinc in between all the lapped layers, and I'm going to have my lovely assistant close the trunk on me so that it is stood up as high as possible with the trunk closed to make sure that this support is in a good spot with the gap of the trunk being right. So after this, it is time to get to the other side. This is all stitched in. It is completely sturdy, ready to go. The zinc stuff that I keep talking about, well, this is the actual stuff that I use. And why I'm using that is if you look on the original, in between the layers, this thing gets rusted up. It's not protected. A bunch of the inside of the car is bare metal. That's why these cars rust out. So this one here is all sandblasted. Before I zinc coat it, I'm going to give it another quick sandblast. And then I'm going to zinc coat the inside of this and where that goes. Before I zinc coat that, I sand it off. And then everywhere, so when I put this together where I want it, I'm going to take and scratch into the zinc coating where my welds are. Then I take and I just clean off those areas. And the reason why is this adds contamination to the weld. And if you just weld right over the zinc coating, you're going to have a really porous, ugly weld. And so by prepping, meaning I clean off around all these little spots before I weld, and I clean off the bare metal areas here where they're marked, and I weld it, I'm going to have the best quality weld as well as some rust protection between these layers, because that's where the rust starts from. Pinch welds, any lapped layer. All right, that is all coated and in, and that wheel tub is all tacked in, so body off and we'll weld it out. But before we do that, we have to ditto this side. So that is the plan. You will see when I have it done. I told you that I needed to get the other side done. Well, there we go. It is all tacked in, ready to go. Unfortunately, I will not be able to weld this all out until we get this car on the rotisserie. So that is all tacked in really good. And I have another video of how we made this back seat fit around these tubs. So we'll just look through this seat, but it is all tacked in, ready to weld out. And the back between the seat and the trunk, that panel is all in, and a little bit needs to be welded out, like the spot welds and stuff for that. But yeah, the tubs in the back of this car are done. The seat, you'll have to check out that video. I'm really thankful that you guys are taking the time to check out the videos. It is helping the channel, and that is really good because I want to keep making videos. I am having a lot of fun building cars, and I really like sharing with you how we go about it. So if you have any comments or questions on this, please add a comment in the comments, and please like, share, and subscribe.